up, man?
How are you, man?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. We're out here in North Platte. Obviously, we got the Russ Jones show tonight. Just wanted to talk about a handful of things, man. Just have a conversation and get some coffee in me here. So, why don't you tell us a little bit? You're a busy dude, man. You know, I see you traveling all over the place, and the Skywalker 101 over the last probably 3.5, 4 years. I mean, you kind of, it was something you jumped into, and it's look at where you're at now, man. I mean, you're traveling all over the place, blowing up. Why don't you kind of tell us about that a little bit, man?
Yeah, I was coaching at a previous gym before, and I felt like this is something I could do on my own, and I just the opportunity presented itself, and opened up my own facility. Well, first I started, I was renting space at a wrestling academy with Zach Dominguez and MWC. And I was staying pretty busy there, but I kind of outgrew that and needed my own, facility. So, the last 3.5 years, it's been a lot of traveling, a lot of, people competing in MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, and so on and so on. And, somebody that doesn't get brought up enough, and you'll probably agree with me, is Scott Morton.
Yeah.
When I brought Scott in, and Scott actually reached out to me, to help coach and stuff like that. And for me, that was the missing piece as far as the MMA side was going, was getting that grappler and that wrestler in the room that can, set a precedent. And once I started telling all my peers, that I was bringing in Coach Scott, it was more of a holy shit.
Man.
Those guys,
for sure.
And it's made a big difference. And I think we feed off each other really well, and our personalities really, connect instead of, clash. And I think that's a big part of it. And once everyone's on the same page, that's when you really start seeing results. And like right now, the gym's on a kind of a roll. We've won 17 of our last 19 fights, and we've been kicking ass. And so I can't thank Scott enough. And
well, let's put a pin in it right there and talk about Scott for just a second.
Sure.
So Scott's one of those guys. He's been around forever, man. And so by the time that I had started coaching Anthony, or when you had started coaching Anthony, man, Anthony was already a veteran of the, he already had a ton of fights, and he'd already fought on Strike Force and UFC. But Scott's been there since he was fighting fairgrounds and barns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think a cool thing about Scott and Anthony's relationship is Anthony's first pro fight was Scott's last pro fight.
Yeah.
Which I think you can't.
A passing of the torch.
I don't think there's a better seamless transition in the game
now
between coach and fighter. So
and to have that connection that where I ended a career and started a new one, you started a career, and to have a guy like Scott Morton, he obviously has been in the UFC a handful of times. He was there with the Ellenbergers, and Brilsey and all those guys.
Jensen and everybody.
Yeah, man. And so he's had the opportunity to perform as a coach on that platform, but to see a guy who has put so much into the sport, kind of with Anthony, and that's one thing Anthony said to me, he said to you, he said to Scott, any of the coaches and the guys that he actually considers friends,
right?
He said from the beginning, I'm taking us to a world championship.
For sure.
I'm taking us there, man, and he did it. He took us to the world title fight, all of us. Anybody that worked with the guy,
right? And it's funny because there was when he signed to fight Shogun, he was just kind of joking, and he kind of looked at me. We were actually in my office, and his manager Jim Watson called and said, "Hey, we got a fight. We're going to Germany in 2 weeks, whatever." And Anthony got off the phone, was like, "Guess we're fighting Shogun in 2 weeks." And he's like, "You see, I always told you we'd take you places."
Yeah.
So
man.
it was kind of funny how that all worked out.
Well, and then so the other thing I want to say about Scott before we move on from Scotty Mo is that I think a lot of the guys that he's worked with in the past, or where Scott kind of catches a bad beat sometimes, is Scott is just he's just kind of Scott 100% of the time. You know what I'm saying? And I think
man.
People take the rough side of Scott all the time, and even before when I started, I'd cornered with Scott a handful of times, but I'd never spent any significant amount of time with him. And we're getting ready to head out to Pittsburgh, UFC Pittsburgh, for Anthony's first fight back in the UFC.
Right.
And me and Scott are flying out together, and we had a layover in the airport. And so we were stuck in Chicago for 5 or 6 hours.
Right.
And I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to be stuck in an airport with Scott Morton. Man, Scott's a cool guy. He just very much is just kind of plain faced, and he just says it the way he is. And
Scott
when you can get him laughing, he's the guy,
exactly.
man.
And Scott just does. Scott likes his lane.
Yeah.
He won't go outside of it, and that's what I love about him. It's like, I've been now all around the world with Scott, and when he's dead set on something, he's gonna do it.
I think the way the reason he's so successful at what he does, and the reason he's so efficient at what he does, is like you said, he does stay in his lane. And Scott goes, okay, this is the way I approach jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And I think that if we sat down to play a board game, he would approach it the same way. Like if we were playing Monopoly, I think Scott's sitting there like, okay, I'm gonna take his money this way.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna buy his house on Boardwalk, and I think he just would, man. I think that's why he's successful.
And it's helped me a ton, coaching wise, because it gets our athletes to really buy in and trusting the process and buying in and staying on course. So many times you get these young athletes, they lose once and they want to hop town. They want to, ship out of town and do this and change it up. And it's like, listen, you're gonna lose. You have to learn how to lose. Like it's the environment's fault. Yeah, you have to learn how to lose collectively as a team and pick the pieces up. Because if you don't go through those, if you don't go through those tribulations with your team, how are you gonna put the pieces back together?
Yeah, man.
And so. Like I said, I can't say good enough things about having Scott, coach alongside me. I'm really thankful. For everybody, the whole, I have a lot of support in Omaha, from Nissan of Omaha to Soldier Sports to all our sponsors, and so this, it's a little cliche, but the term, it takes a village. Yeah, man. It really has taken a village for me, and so.
Well, yeah, and I think for any of us.
For sure, absolutely.
And I can't think of and we'll touch on this a little bit later, but I can't think of a better community than Omaha. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know there's a lot of people that pride themselves on, their community and the combat sports community they have in their area, man. But having with both of us, we've been all over the place now, and I honestly can't think of a better place to lay roots than Omaha, Nebraska. For sure. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so I don't want to touch a lot on our boy the superstar Anthony Smith. You know what I'm saying? But I do want to talk about the Jon Jones fight a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how do you go into you're fighting what everybody pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm not saying some of the people consider him. I'm saying pretty much everybody considers Jon Jones the best to do it all time. He's the Michael Jordan of this stuff. Sure. You know what I'm saying? So how do you go into that fight? I know, talking to Anthony and just kind of knowing his mindset, I know Anthony went into that thing knowing that he could win that fight.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think anybody behind Anthony, it's hard not to feed off that and think he couldn't win that fight. I thought he was going to win that fight.
Yeah. So
how do you go into that? How do you approach that?
So, and this is where why it's been working. with Coach Mark and Coach Scott and myself and Jim. It's like, we strip the name, we strip the face, and we work on the positions and the transitions we're going to meet. And so it's been a formula that's been working, and I just was able to finally watch the fight a few nights ago. It was it's inevitable. You get to a place like that and you want to win so bad.
Yeah.
And you have visions of what you try not to have visions, but it's inevitable. We're human. We have, we're filled with emotion, and it's like you vision what things are going to be like after you win, and then it's like it gets taken away from you, and it's like it drives you crazy.
Yeah, man. And then you kind of put off like wanting to watch the tape of the fight, because it's kind of like facing the boogeyman under the bed, man. You go back and you don't put anything on the fighter, but you put it on yourself as a coach, and you go, well, what could I have done differently to make this a better situation?
So you start questioning things and this and that, but I finally was able to kind of buckle down and watch the fight, and even watching those first 2 rounds, I'm like, this guy's beatable.
Yeah.
And Anthony is definitely the one. I still believe to this day he's the one that's going to do it.
Yeah.
So, as far as
just like you were talking about, like facing the adversity of a loss.
Right.
I also can't think of anybody better than Anthony Smith to do it.
Yeah, and I've looked at the list of people that Jon Jones has beaten. I looked at Machida, I looked at Rampage, looked at all these other guys. If you looked at their career, what happened after they faced Jon Jones, a lot of their career kind of spiraled down.
Yeah, slid down.
And all those guys that he's beaten, Anthony's the one that's going to do the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
but then
how do you believe that?
Then how do you avoid this though? Because Gus comes off of the first loss to Jones,
right?
Which is a close fight. Mm-hmm. A very competitive fight. Right. There was people arguing that Gus maybe won that fight. I didn't think he did.
Right.
I thought Jon Jones won that fight, but there's people arguing that Gus could have won that fight. Okay, so he comes off of it. He's got a little bit of a layoff. and he comes back and starches Grover.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then he has another layoff because of injuries and just the stuff that goes on.
Right.
Yeah, and he to be honest, he was playing the game trying to get another shot at John. You know? Okay, so it wasn't like Gus took a big step back. He came back and he said, "Okay, look, you're the top guy right now. I'm gonna ace you," and he did it. How does Anthony do that? Because if he comes back and he beats Gus,
Right.
Anthony's not right back in line for a title shot.
Right.
You know, he's gonna have to be one, maybe two more guys besides Gus.
Right.
To get his name called, and step back up and ring John Jones' doorbell. You know, so like, how do you face that? I mean, what do you do with that? You know.
Once again, we strip the name and we strip the persona, and you know we're going in there fighting a guy who's 6'5", that's from Stockholm, Sweden, that you know boxes decently well, and you know that kind of struggles off his back. That's how we're gonna approach it. You know.
Awesome.
So you know, Gus is obviously a unique fighter because of his frame. And, you know, when you face people with those kind of long frames, it could get a little tricky in the transitions and, you know, in the long-range game. But, like I said, I've always told Anthony from the start, when Anthony's Anthony Smith, he doesn't lose a round. And we're approaching that the same way.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not going necessarily to win rounds. We're going to finish a fight. Yeah. And that's what Anthony's best at. So I wholeheartedly
Well, and you don't,
in
a 15-minute fight, you don't have, and this is going to be a 25-minute fight. You don't have 5 rounds you got to win.
Right.
You got 25 1-minute battles you got to win.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a lot of it's you know, I tell a lot of my athletes, this is a lot like football. It's like, you know, you win a play at a time. Mm-hmm. You win a play at a time. Mm-hmm. You know, we hand the ball off, we get 5 yards.
Right. You want to win exchanges, not rounds.
You know what I mean? We hit a deep. We may hit a deep post where we put a guy on his butt. You know, it's a lot of little plays. Sure. You know, I have this little spiel I go through with every athlete before they fight. Is this like
the? Is this like the Al Pacino any given
exactly,
Sunday? Maybe
yeah,
are we
sure.
going Al Pacino?
Yeah, for sure. And I say, you know, we're not here to knock him out. We're here to beat him up. Once we beat him up, then we can knock him out.
Right.
You know,
the guy will fall on his own.
He'll fall. Right. Well, you're just chopping a tree down. That's all we're doing. You know, it's not going to take one swing of an axe. It's gonna, you know, we're gonna sharpen that axe for hours and hours and hours, and then we're gonna go. We're gonna.
Now I'm gonna butcher this quote, but it'll give the essence of what it means. You know, Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 15 hours or something like that,
sharpen my axe for 14.
I would sharpen my axe for 14, man. Like to chop down a tree, I'd sharpen my axe for 14,
for sure.
and I'd chop at that son of a gun.
And that's just the high level approach, and that's no secret. You know, a lot of high level coaches know that. But it's all, and that's where to me Anthony's so special, because at the end of the day it's about execution. Yeah. And I feel the better bought in and the better mentally prepared the athlete is, he's going to execute more times than none. All right, so
the last thing I kind of want to touch on about Anthony before we move on to a couple other things is that, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I think it's kind of been bled to death, and I think even probably Anthony's tired of hearing about it and having you guys talk about it. Sure. But okay, the 2 illegal strikes in round 4. Mm-hmm. Okay, whether or not it got called, Anthony got kicked in his head when he was on the ground. Okay, I mean I've watched it back. 50 times. Mm-hmm. Anthony got kicked in his head when he was on the ground.
Kicked in the face and kneed in the head.
Yeah, and then he got kneed in the head. Right. The only question, and it's the only thing I want to touch on this, you know, John Jones, he's got obviously kind of a tarnished record a little bit, and he's got kind of a record of not necessarily being a cheater in regards to how he conducts himself inside the cage, but he's got the eye pokes thing going on. He's got the
there's always an asterisk next to
right, and there's always going to be. There's always going to be. Right. That knee to the head. Now, John Jones had that fight. He won those rounds. Mm-hmm. You know, Anthony was not. He had not won a round. You know, to that point, and then John Jones. To me, it looked, and obviously to Herb Dean, who was right there, it looked very intentional. That knee to the head. Just touch on that a little bit, and just kind of. You were in the corner. Right. I wasn't sitting right there.
Right. I mean, you know, when things like that happen in fights, and this goes back to what I was saying about, you know, Anthony's going to progress more than anybody else as John has fought, because the mental fortitude he carries. To me, when Anthony fights, it's not about winning rounds. It's just, okay, we have a 15-minute fight or a 25-minute fight. We're going to finish him within this time frame. Mm-hmm. So when he got hit in the head, when those illegal strikes, you know, when John hit him with those illegal strikes, it sucks because you're in the corner, and at the end of the day, I care about Anthony's well-being and his girls and, you know, and his fiance. But I knew, knowing how mentally tough Anthony was, that Anthony could have taken a knee from the clinch position that was twice as hard, and I still would have had the same focus where it would have been like, we still need to finish this guy.
Well, yeah, and I don't think for a second
Right.
anybody that knows Anthony or has worked
Right.
with Anthony, he could have taken like a stone cold Steve Austin chair shot to the head,
Right, yeah.
and he would have gone, "Okay, Herb,
Right.
just don't disqualify him. We're gonna finish."
Out of all the adversity he's been through, to me, that's just like the whole steroid thing. It's like you've been fighting people on steroids his whole career.
The
so
whole time,
to us,
yeah.
it doesn't make a difference.
Right.
When you look at that knee, maybe it was intentional and it was illegal, but who's to say?
But did you think it was intentional?
I don't know, man. I go back and forth every day on it, man.
Yeah.
I really do. Because of John's reputation, it's really hard to sit there and be like, no, it wasn't intentional. He's not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
Right.
And he's the only one that truly knows. And whether he admits it or not, we'll never know either.
Right,
So
right.
and I tell my athletes, like the songs, how Anthony too, it's we can't control what we can't control. So we just have to figure out how we're going to drive forward and move forward, how
Yeah.
we're going to carry on.
Okay.
So
That's fair enough.
Right.
That's fair enough,
it's I don't want to sit here and say, hey, if those illegal strikes didn't happen in the fight, we'd be the champion right now. We never know. Obviously, you want the best, opportunity and shot for your fighter, and you want a fair shake for your fighter. But you know as well as anybody too, this is a very unforgiving game, and the road's not going to be all hunky dory for
No.
you, and the red carpet's not going to be laid out for you to win a world title.
No.
You're gonna. If your physical adversity is all you experience, consider yourself lucky.
Right.
So
Right.
it is what it is, man.
Okay. Well, so moving on from Ant, let's talk about this, man. So there's not only you, but a handful of gyms, and for a while there were several gyms that were producing like new young in our area. They were
Right.
producing new young. Like I would say, if you take the gym thing, and not to take away from any of the gyms in
Right.
Omaha, but there was gyms in Omaha. We had 3 or 4 of them
Right.
that we were all putting out
New
new
talent,
guys.
right. Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And investing everything into new guys.
Right.
Not just the Anthony Smiths or
Right.
not just this guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're all putting out these new guys, and we were going, okay, here we go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Here we move. But it seems like lately, out of Skywalker 101, out of Scott Morton Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you guys are still pushing at that.
Right.
Like you guys are still poke.
Right.
Where I think a lot of these other gyms and this is where, okay, some of these gyms are going more towards the business avenue, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
good. I mean,
That's fine.
that's how they're going to grow
Right.
their business. That's how
Right.
they're going to feed their families. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But as far as combat sports goes,
Right.
you guys are probably like the most active gym right now
Yeah.
in Omaha. You
Right.
know, tell us a little bit. You got Jesse Rutherford tonight making his pro debut.
Right.
Okay. Aside from him, you got Nate Morrow, who he made his pro debut not
Right.
that long ago. I know he
Right.
had a pro boxing fight.
Right.
Came up short in that. Won his pro MMA debut. A very active kid, a kid that I love that kid.
Yeah.
Regardless, he can be a knucklehead sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell him, I
Right.
message him.
Right.
As soon as I see some stupid stuff on Facebook,
Yeah.
I'm like, boy.
Yeah, it's not just him. It's all I got guys like Carlos Trinidad. Jake Casanda's getting there. Blaine Richards obviously looking to make his pro debut soon. Jesse Rutherford. So we got a good stable of young fighters. And the key is, for guys making the transition is the right fights when you're an amateur, not padding your record, not worrying about.
Yeah,
your
man.
record. Like when I was bringing up Seth, he was 12-0, and it was like. He was like, hey, when am I going to go pro? And I'm like, Seth, you're just not ready. And he's like, how? Like, how are these other guys? I'm like, because, Seth, you have just walked through everybody.
Yeah,
you
got to
fought.
fight world beaters.
I want to find the hardest fight for you at
Yeah.
a weight class above. I want to see you fight through some adversity because
Yeah.
you'd rather lose now than when you're a pro.
Well,
It's just
here's
like
the-
the UFC. I tell guys all the time, you'd rather lose outside the UFC than in the UFC because,
Yeah.
You lose 2 in a row, it's not far, to say that you're going to get cut.
Yeah, man.
So-
And the thing is, too, like, it doesn't matter whether you're making your pro debut off of a 12. I would say this. Let me put it this way. If I'm a coach, okay, and I've got a guy, and I'm trying to make a decision of who's going to go pro here.
Right.
Okay, I got a guy who he's 7-5 as an amateur. But 4 out of those 5 losses, he fought studs. Okay,
Right.
and I got a 12-0 guy over here.
Right.
And he's fought, okay.
Yeah.
He's fought maybe 2 tough guys.
Right.
Man, I'm taking that 7-5 kid,
sure.
and I'm going, you're the one that's ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Because you lost those fights, and you came back in the gym and you grew. And you lost this one, you came back in the gym and you grew.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I agree with that. I think that more fighters need to use the amateur route.
Jesse's that guy because he was 7-4, and he won his last 3 or 4 amateur fights, and he fought a kid his second or third to last amateur fight named Dylan Cox, and in that fight he was
that was at
Coco Keys.
Yeah, I commentated that fight. It was me and Anthony.
Yeah, and Jesse was down 2 rounds of that fight.
He's losing.
And what people don't know too is that fight before the fight started, Jesse's best friend was in the locker room having a seizure.
Right.
And when you see your friend hurting like that, and you still have to get up to prepare for battle. And Jesse was down 2 rounds, got dropped by a body shot, a nasty liver kick, and broke his finger. Yeah. And he sat down in the corner and he said, "Coach, as you know, headshots go away, body shots stay with you." Got dropped with a liver kick, and the first thing he talks about is his fingers. Like, I think my finger's broke. And I said, "Jesse, excuse my language, I don't give a F about your finger, and I don't give a F about your liver. I need you to go out there and I need you to finish this guy." And he looked at me and he said, "Okay, Coach." And he went out and he triangled him.
Yeah.
And it was like, he's ready.
Yeah.
He's ready. Maybe one more, but he's ready. So, and Dylan's a great fighter, and Dylan's actually making his pro debut here soon. Yeah, I love Dylan.
Tough kid.
He comes and trains with us from Iowa every now and then.
Tough kid.
But it's moments like that you need to see from these guys where they've gone through a little bit of adversity, because if you've never been through that and you step into a pro fight, the glitz and glamour and the aura of the fight can get to you, and you can be facing adversity, and you'll find a way out.
Yeah.
You'll look for that way out. You'll take the way out 9 times out of 10 if you've never had one of those moments before. So Jesse's a true testament to that. And like I said, we have a great stable of young talent that's going to come up and make some noise. Blaine's a guy that we're very high on. He wrestled in college, but man, he just loves to strike. He loves getting in there and throwing.
Well, I think too, I think he takes the right approach to his fights as a wrestler.
For
in
sure.
the fact that he's not one of those wrestlers that goes out and he's immediately looking for the shot. Like, he wants to test his striking, and he knows he always has his wrestling to fall back on.
Right.
So like, he's gonna go strike, and if he feels like he might be losing an exchange, or hey, this guy he's not going to trade with me, and I'm going to have to bring the fight to him.
Right.
I'm going to take him down.
Approach is everything.
Yeah.
And when your strengths,
I think he reads it right.
Right. When your strength's your last resort, that's a positive. That's a good thing, And so, when I was training Josh Heenan, he was stud. And I mean, he doesn't want to fight anymore, and I'll support anything the kid does. But
could have done whatever he wanted.
Could have done whatever he wanted. But I used to tell him all the time, like, we need to focus on your striking. He's like, what's going to happen when you get to the UFC and you try to take down another All-American wrestler and you can't?
And he goes, nah.
And he goes, no,
or
you're not doing
even look, John Jones wasn't an All-American wrestler, but he's got the frame.
Right.
Israel and Sada.
Right.
He hardly anybody's going to take Israel down,
So, what are you going to do then? What's your contingency plan?
Right.
If your contingency plan, isn't your strength, you're kind of...
You got to have that flight attendant going, the exit is to the left.
For sure. For sure.
Right.
For sure. So,
and your flotation device is under your seat.
So... man, we try to create a positive but a pretty old school mentality when it comes to training, and I really preach to these guys the things that I can't teach you, like being on time, being coachable, cleaning up after yourself, being well prepared. Being. I
see your post about the toilet paper rolls at the gym, bro.
Toilet paper rolls, man.
Bro,
these guys.
You guys at Skywalker 101, you need to get together. Put the toilet paper roll.
And I'm sure these guys are always, they roll their eyes when I'm like, hey, we got to clean, we got to keep the gym clean. And it's like, even if the gym was spotless, I'd still complain. Man,
it just goes. It goes back to the military. I want tight corners on your bed.
Yeah,
I
served for over 12 years, and that's just kind of the mentality I bring, and I feel like some of these guys, I'm more like a father or a big brother to them. So, I'm not just coaching them and fighting. I'm coaching them in life and getting them to understand what's right from wrong and setting them up for their future.
Sure, man. So, okay, so last thing I want to touch on quick. I think that you and I both, I think we can both admit that we're foodies. You know,
hell yeah,
we're foodies, bro.
Absolutely, bro.
And so, like, I remember the first time I went out to, it was me and Ant and Scott, and we were going out to, it was me, Ant, and Train. We were going out to Philly.
Yeah.
You're like, these are the spots, because you're a
spots,
Philadelphia
bro.
boy. These are the spots. Okay, so I remember hitting the spots.
Yeah.
And then the second time we went out to Jersey, and you were like, these are the spots, and you went
bro.
with us.
Yeah.
You know, you went with us, and we hit the spots.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about. Give me the top 5, like the people that are listening to this now,
okay,
that might know like the top 5 like Omaha spots.
Omaha spots?
Omaha,
Okay.
bro. Let's go Omaha.
So
I know you're gonna say Moolah.
Moolah for Mexican food.
I know you're gonna say Moolah.
And I know they're. And this is a little bit of a shameless plug, but they're one of the gym sponsors.
No, but that's the joint.
But
though.
It's great. The first Sunday of the month they have this big party brunch. The food's great. The environment's great. If you're like you're just starting to date a chick, it's a good date night spot, you know, because it's a fun environment. So Moolah for Mexican food. For steaks, I'm a big Casio Steakhouse guy, because when you walk in there, it kind of gives you that old mafia kind of feel with the lights dim and, you know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna get shot in the back every time.
Yeah,
for
sure. Like, it was a nice pick and hit you.
That shoulder check.
So I'm a big Casio's guy. For sushi, there's a spot on 72nd and Giles. It's a little hidden gem. It's called Hutong. Every day from 2 to 5, they have happy hour. So that's where I get sushi. Let's see what else. That's 3. A couple more spots that I really like. I love. God, I'm blanking on the name. Italian spot, La Sol Mio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a really, really good Italian spot. Their fried mozzarella is really good. Really, really good lasagna. And let's go one more. One more kind of. This is a Lincoln place that's now in Omaha, but like if you want that like late night drunk food, it's got to be De Leon's.
Oh yeah, De Leon's.
Yeah, De Leon's is strong.
De Leon's.
When I was at Nebraska,
give you a burrito as big as your head, bro.
Exactly. So those are my spots. There's other places I go to. You know, I like Greenbelly. Yeah. You know, Greenbelly's big for a lot of the fighters. There's Maria's next door. We share the parking lot. Maria's at the gym, so that's a good spot for tacos. Yeah, man, Omaha's a really, really good food town.
Yeah.
A really, really solid food town.
I always figured that's why we kept you here.
Yeah.
That's why we kept you in the O.
Yeah, so, yeah, man, if you need good, and my fighters ask me all the time, Biaggi's is a good another Italian place.
Yeah.
They're always hitting me, hey, where should I, me and the wife are going out to a date.
That Mouth of the South.
Mouth of the South is really good. I've had that blackened chicken pasta or whatever.
That Mouth of the South.
Yeah, Mouth of the South is really good. That's an underrated spot.
Dude, so way underrated.
And I'm glad they're back.
And they went through that fire, and now they're back up on 72nd
for sure. Another couple spots that I do like. I like the Drover.
Yeah.
That place just had a big fire though, so I'm not sure if they're open. But the Drover was really good if you get the whiskey fillet that they have.
The Drover is like a lot of Omaha people's like to-go steak.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I actually just tried a new place that I've been wanting to try for a while. Brother Sebastian's.
Yeah, that's good. That's right over by my place.
Big Fred's is really good. This is right there.
I'm a bartender.
I'm
a bartender there.
Big Fred's is really good. So you get me in the wormhole.
I know.
We just keep going.
All right, man. Well, hey. As always, good to catch up with you. I'll see you at the fights tonight, and then we'll connect when we get back to the O.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.